Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Bleed with Me. And this is from writer-director Amelia Moses, who previously had worked on films like Fear House, Bloodthirsty, Undress Me. I have never seen any of these, but this is my first foray into her work, and this focuses on Rowan, played by Lee Marshall, who is kind of an outsider. She gets brought in by Emily, played by Lauren Beatty, who is like, hey, come on to this retreat, to this isolated cabin in the middle of the snow. And you're just like, what a recipe for disaster. Let's go. It's a horror movie. And this psychological horror, you include Brendan, played by Aris Tyros, who is Emily's boyfriend. And you have this interesting dynamic here because all of a sudden, Rowan starts waking up with cuts on her arm, and she's having these strange visions of seeing Emily eating her blood. And you're just like, vampires? And no, this film doesn't go there. But it's much more, well, I guess it's more disturbing because it's like, it's supposed to be more realistic in the sense that, like, her friend has a thirst for human, and instead of, like, vampires, which you're forced to eat blood. So it's going more for that more disturbing kind of thing, but is it? Is that what's really going on? Because we don't really know what's actually happening to Rowan. She just keeps having these visions in her dreams. She's waking up, and there's more cuts on her. And this kind of film really relies upon dream sequences. And outside of, like, Nightmare on Elm Street, dream sequences can be really annoying in horror films because it's like, they're cheap. They're cheap scares because, like, you can just throw whatever out at you and there's no gravity to it. There's no weight. There's no, okay, this means something. Like American Werewolf in London. Those are insane. And they work because they're really out there. This is like, how creepy can we make this? But Amelia Moses really makes a dark, unnerving atmosphere. There's claustrophobia. There's paranoia. Because that's what comes at night. Paranoia. And you have all of these things working. And you have some solid, well-developed human drama here too, because you have these dynamics, and you know, you have Brendan, who has a connection with Rowan, and both Brendan and Emily are open about the troubles that they're potentially having, and you have Rowan, who's dealing with her own isolation and also her own hesitation towards Emily because what she thinks Emily's doing to her. And this film builds up enough suspense and mystery around it for you to question what's really going on. And this isn't going to be one of those, like, nice, clean endings. This is definitely more of, like, that indie horror kind of thing where it's going to leave you contemplating and feeling really dirty by the end of the movie. And, like, I'm guessing that's why this movie has, like, a 4.1 on IMDb out of 10, because, you know, those kinds of horror films don't really fly with mainstream audiences. And this is very much in the vein of, like, A24 horror movies, IFC horror movies. And I'm a little surprised it's not one of those two, but this film has so much potential from Moses. I would love to see more of what she has to do. The three performances are strong, and they have enough development with these characters for us to sit with them and wonder and care about the dynamic that's going on in this paranoia-driven, claustrophobic situation out in the middle of the woods, because why would you do that? But, you know, they probably don't watch a whole lot of horror movies. I do. Plenty of us do. We know that's not a good idea. But this film leaves you perturbed and unnerved, and I think it does enough to make this an effective horror film. Obviously, if you're more of the horror fan that's, like, into the more mainstream kinds of, like, franchise horror films, this is not that kind of film. This is a lot headier. It's a lot more contemplative. it's a lot more methodical in the 80 minutes of screen time that it utilizes. So if you're in for more of like an art house kind of feeling, go check this one out. But it's disturbing, and it's weird, and it's uncomfortable, and it doesn't always fire on all cylinders. You know, the dream sequences get a little much after a while, but I still felt like this had enough merit to make this a worthwhile watch for those of art house horror fans out there. But those are my thoughts on Bleed With Me. Let me know what you think. Let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.